Hello and welcome to Craft with Sarah and day 1 of the Christmas Craft Countdown for 2025. Over the next 20 days, I'm going to be sharing 20 brand new Christmas themed Cricut projects with you. Usually with my Christmas Craft Countdowns, I like to start with some kind of advent calendar, and today is no exception. This year's advent calendar is this beautiful freestanding design. It's got 2 reindeer either side of a wheel, which can be turned to count off the days towards Christmas. It's a very pretty design that can be used year after year to count down throughout December. But if you're thinking, hey, where are all my chocolates for my advent calendar? Don't worry, we absolutely have you covered. The back of the box lifts off and you can put whatever sweets, candy, treats, little toys, anything you want in there. I've put Lindor Lindt chocolates in there because those are my absolute favourites, and the box perfectly fits 24 of them. So that's going to get me all the way to Christmas Eve. So what are you waiting for? Download the files and let's get started. The files for this project are free for the next 24 hours. Here's how to download them. Register a free ticket for the Christmas Craft Countdown at craftwithsarah.com/Christmas25. After registering, you'll get an email which contains a link to the schedule page for the countdown. Visit the schedule page to find and download today's files. Each download is only available for free for 24 hours after it goes live. If you've missed some, check out the Instant Access Bundle at craftwithsarah.com/Christmas25 bundle, which gives immediate and ongoing access to all of the files from the Christmas Craft Countdown, plus loads of extra bonus designs. Or purchase just the design from this video at craftwithsarah.com/products. To find the designs from this countdown, click into the Occasions filter and choose Christmas. The designs will appear here each day once the free versions have expired. The download comes in a zip folder. You need to unzip this before uploading the SVG files into your cutting machine software. For instructions on how to use the cut files, visit craftwithsarah.com/help and choose Cricut, Silhouette, or Scan and Cut. Within there are dedicated help guides on topics such as how to upload SVGs, how to modify them to make custom projects, framing tips, and how to cut cardstock with your type of machine. If you have any questions, email hello@craftwithsarah.com. Now, on with today's project. This is how the advent calendar design looks when it's loaded into Cricut Design Space. You can zoom out with the buttons on the bottom left if you want to see the whole thing. There's quite a lot to make up this design, especially because of the box with the lid on to hide all of our secret chocolates. There's a green box on the top left of the project that tells you the size it should load in at. To check that, click on the design. You should see that your width is 42 inches and your height is 26 inches. If yours is different, change it to match those measurements. Then, when you've got the size right, we need to delete the green box. You don't want to accidentally cut that out. To do that, make sure the design is clicked and then ungroup the layers, either by pressing the Ungroup button at the top of the Layers panel or press it on the floating menu at the bottom. Then in the Layers panel, click that rectangle layer and delete it. The overall design of the whole box is just over 11 inches wide and about 7.5 inches tall. That means it should fit on A4 cardstock as well as 12 by 12. However, you may need to make it a little bit smaller to cut on US letter cardstock. I will double check that as I haven't yet because it only just popped up into my head. But if you check out the written version of this tutorial, which will be linked in the description of this video, then if you do need to make it all a little bit smaller for US letter size cardstock, if that's the card you want to be using, then I'll put the measurements in there for you. There's quite a lot of formatting we need to do on this design before it's ready to cut to add in all of the score lines. The easiest way to find the lines we need to change is by looking down the Layers panel. So first up, make sure you're at the top, which you know because you'll see these 3 white circles. Click onto the first mini group you see in here. You know it is one because it has the chevron arrow that you can click. Within there is a blue solid piece and a single line on top. That shows that this has something in it that needs to change to score. So I'll click on that single line and it will highlight it on the project. Under the Operations menu where it currently says Basic Cut, change it to Score. Then click to select that mini group, so I've got both of those layers selected, and then attach them together. Attach is what tells the Cricut we want it to do the scoring on this particular bit of blue card. You can either attach by clicking the Attach button at the bottom of the Layers panel, or click the paperclip icon underneath where it's selected the layer. Then look down for the next one. Open that up, and this one looks very similar. Click on the single line, change it to Score, click to select the mini group, and attach. And then keep looking through and changing the score lines and attaching. I'm going to keep doing this until we get to one that maybe doesn't need to be done quite the same. If that happens, I will point it out to you. All right, that's all of those. Then we've got a few layers that aren't in groups, so we can ignore them. Then on to the next one, open that up. This time, this doesn't have that same layout with the blue layer and then something to score on top. Instead, this just contains all the bits of the reindeer on the right. I grouped them together to make it easier to navigate through the Layers panel, but there's nothing you need to change in here. We can just close that one up. It might be easier to double click on the group name and write reindeer so that it will remind you when you're looking through at the end that you haven't forgotten to do a score line. This group wasn't supposed to have one in it. The one underneath is the other reindeer, so let's write reindeer in there. And then scroll down until you get to the next mini group. Within here, this is another one that needs the scoring. So we've got the blue one at the bottom, then click the line layer on top, change it to Score, click the group and attach. And then we've got a few more to go. It will all make sense once we start putting this together, but I'm now going to work through the rest of these as quickly as I can. I've now done all of those lines and attached them. So now as I'm scrolling up through the whole of the Layers panel, the only two groups that don't now say attach on them are the two that were my reindeer. Everything else has been formatted. At this point, I strongly recommend saving the project. Press save and give it a name and save it wherever you want. That means if you're not ready to cut it out yet, you've got all of that work saved to come back to another day. Or if you start cutting it out and then want to come back to it later, again, you don't have to do all that formatting again. When I cut this out, I'm going to do the kind of grey blue colour in the antlers and the reindeer in silver, and this deep yellow in gold for some extra festive shine. This is ready to cut out now, so click make, and that will separate out all the colours. You can change the paper size in the drop down here, and then you can click and drag to move things about to take up less space on your cardstock. For instance, by moving these snowflakes around, it now means I've got all of this section of this bit of card ready to use on another project another day. Just make sure when you're moving things about that nothing overlaps like that, otherwise it won't cut out properly. If you're changing the paper size, you'll need to do that for each individual colour. When you're happy with how everything is looking, press continue to connect to your Cricut and follow the on-screen instructions to get everything cut from your cardstock. Once you've got everything cut out, put it into kind of collections of related pieces. For instance, get all the bits of one reindeer together and get the other one separate, and then get a little pile of all of the blue pieces with the circles cut out of each piece, a separate pile of all the blue pieces without the circles cut in. You'll have these 3 strips, the Merry Christmas, and I've already glued my blue onto the silver because I was worried about losing that little dot in the eye. You'll have the snowflake pieces, the 2 bits for the main structure, 3 little white circles. I only picked 2 up then, there is a third one over there. These 2 side bits for stability, and finally the 2 bits of the wheel. I'll go through that all in more detail as we get to each section. And don't worry that mine showed that it was folded. I've just gone down my score lines to make it a bit quicker for this video, but I'll talk you through everything you need to do that when we get there. First up, we'll do the reindeer. I've already stuck one of mine together because they go together in exactly the same way. Here it is. I've got some silver and gold card on there. There's a little bit of depth and dimension with some foam squares. We'll be putting the reindeer together with a combination of glue and foam squares. The glue I'm using is Barely Art glue, but I also like Halal. The reason I like these glues is they don't bend or wrinkle the card like some glues can do. The foam squares I'm using are from Dot and Dab. These ones are 2mm thick and 5x5mm in size, but any size or shape will do. You just might need to cut them a little bit smaller if they're too big. Okay, so we'll start up with these two bottom layers. The brown will be glued onto the silver so that you can just see the two back hooves in the silver and also that back antler just peeking out a little bit. Try and get your glue into all the bits of the antlers so it sticks on really well, and also into down. Also try to get your glue right down into the bottom of the legs. This is how it should look. So I've lined up these bits with the silver, and then there's a little bit of silver poking out the back, making up that back antler. And then, as I said, you can see his feet down there. Next up is the other silver body piece, which looks like this, and this will be stuck on with foam squares. You'll probably need to cut your foam quite small if you want to put some in the feet and also in the antlers. They're really easy to cut with scissors. Just go down and they'll cut in half. Make sure none of your foam is going over any of the edges or any of the gaps, otherwise you'll be able to see it on the finished design, and we don't want to be able to see that foam. We want it all to be nice and hidden away. That's why cutting some bits smaller is often useful. If you can't get it small enough to fit into these antlers, don't worry too much. But if you can, it's nice to put it in there to make sure you've got a nice even stick all along the way. Once you put your foam squares on, peel the tops off to release the stickiness underneath. Line this up. You know where to put it because it's the legs that you can't already see that back hoof on. Then it will line up to cover up the brown in that top antler, like that. It's hard to see against my background, isn't it? Next up is the brown bit for the top of the body, but before we glue this on, we need to add the black piece to the back to fill in the eye and the nose. Turn this upside down and add a little bit of glue around the eye and towards the front of the reindeer's head where the nose would be. Then take the black piece that looks like this and then turn it over so your pointy bit is facing whichever way your reindeer's nose is. Glue that on and then turn it round before the glue dries and wiggle it round if you need to. So you can see I've missed the top there. It shouldn't be poking out over the top. It should be filling in the eye and then a little bit for the nose. My glue's smudged into the eye a little bit, which is why it shows as white, but it doesn't matter because it will dry clear. If you want to tidy it up, you can use a weeding tool or similar, or just your fingernail. Scrape that glue away. It's a little bit neater now. And now this can glue onto the other bit of the reindeer. Next up is the harness to glue on. You can line it up where you can see it here and here. And then we've got a large piece like this to go on the larger bit of the harness. Goes in the middle, so you'll see a little bit of your yellow or gold. I just dropped that, which was really silly. There's my weeding tool. I couldn't have done that messier if I tried. It should look fine by the time the glue's dry. And then there's another bit to go on the front. Be careful with your glue on this one because there's not a lot of room to put it on. I'll try not to drop it this time. There. And then finally, we've got the antler piece to go on the top with glue. And there's my little reindeer done. Then repeat exactly the same as we just did for the other reindeer, so you end up with 2. I've already done this one. Next up, move on to the Merry Christmas. As I said, I've already glued my blue onto the silver, and then I'll glue it onto the gold as well. There's that, and that can go off to one side as well. Next, bring in all the pieces of the snowflake. These will all be glued to each other, no foam squares for this, because otherwise our brad won't fit through the middle. This is a brad, also known as a split pin. It's got 2 metal bits on it that will come outwards. This will fit through the holes in all the middle when we're done to give it the ability to move around. So you need to be quite accurate when gluing these bits together to make sure your hole in the middle stays there. First up, we've got this dark blue bit to go onto the solid one. Try and get your glue around the very outside edges, even though it's narrow, because if it's glued on there nice and securely, it means the wheel turns a little bit smoother without the risk of it catching on those edges. Line it up. The most important thing is that the hole in the middle is perfectly aligned. Like that. Then we've got this piece. I've done mine in silver, gluing again. Once again, get that circle securely or accurately in place. Then the next smallest piece, which is this one. Okay, so you just see the smallest amount of that border. And then one more, the snowflake for the center. Then put this over to one side too. The last bit of gluing for now are these 2 pieces to make up the wheel. You've got the black underneath and the white to go on top, and it will line up so that the white goes over all those pieces. Stick this on, and once again pay particular attention to the hole in the middle, and put that over to one side to dry as well. Next up, we'll make the base of the box. This is all of the big blue pieces that have the circles cut out. So there's one little circle cut out of one of the sides on all of them. You'll end up with 2 pieces the same that look like this. You've got one big rectangle, one big rectangle with a smaller one in the middle. There's the hole. And then the largest piece like this. I've used textured card, which was kind of a silly idea because it meant that my score lines were really hard to see. So before I started filming, I've already folded all those lines. Otherwise, I would have been here for ages with you just watching me trying really hard to find out which was line in the paper and which was the score line. But the outside, if you are using textured card, if the texture side is the side that will be on the outside. So with all of the score lines, you want to turn it upside down and then fold inwards towards the underside. I've got that one. This is my outside, folded in half. This one, this is my outside, so I've mountain folded that to make a little tent shape. And then for this one, I'll show you on that one. But this is my outside, so I folded that one and that one, all mountain folds. To make the folding easier for the straight lines, you can fold against a ruler. To start with, it means we're going to fold kind of the wrong way, but then we'll go back on ourselves. So for instance, I could line this up. There's a score line down here, which I can just about see. Line it up and then push it against the ruler to start the fold off. And do that for all of the lines. The problem is now all the folds are going the wrong way. You just need to turn it over and then fold them back the other direction. It doesn't really matter that we started it the wrong way, and it made it a lot easier. If you've got a brayer tool or similar, go down all your scores to get the folds lovely and crisp. And now we're ready to put this together. Get the largest piece, this is what we'll start with, and we're going to do the two smaller bits first. So that's the two that look like this. And how we're going to do this is we'll line it up and it will slide underneath one of those tabs on the big bit and then fold it down and glue it along there. So it's gluing almost like a tent effect over both of those tabs. So this is basically sliding in the middle. You can use double-sided tape if you prefer. I'm going to do glue. So glue both sides. This is going to give us a really nice neat box effect. Make sure your two little tabs are folding outwards. You don't want to accidentally trap them in here. And then we'll line that up and fold over. Make sure it's going right up to that score line and no further on both sides. Push down, get it nice and well stuck. And then repeat for the other side with the other shape that looks the same. This way around so that the tabs will be next to it. Check you've got it nice and neat. That's looking good. Okay. Next up, we'll do the solid one like this. So this will tuck over. Make sure that the one with the hole is facing the inside so that you don't see the hole from the outside. And that's going to go over this one, but we're also going to tuck the tabs inside. So it might be easier to fold these tabs up like that and get them into place and then add the glue on both sides of the tab, and then this will slide over, again sandwich it in place. Not only does this make it look neater, but it's stronger too. It needs to be strong to hold all those chocolates. It's a little too hard to hold upright to do that last bit. Okay, so those bits will stand up, tabs will come in. So we're making this shape and sandwich this over the top. Might need to hold it in place until the glue dries. That is the downside of using glue instead of tape. Tape sticks instantly, glue does not. Keep an eye on those sides to make sure they're not trying to come apart a little bit. We should be nice and perpendicular with right angles on all of those sides. If you've got some paper clips, you could go over them to hold it in place while the glue's drying. A couple like that. And that means I don't need to hold it. I can start on the other side. We're doing the same thing with this side. Get those tabs up, then we'll glue both sides of them, and this bit will slot over. This one looks a little bit different because it's got that cutout in the front, but apart from that, it's basically the same. And again, make sure your little circle cutout is facing the inside so that it won't be visible. Just looking, and it's opening a little bit here. I'm thinking I probably should have also put some glue inside to glue this to itself, but it's probably not going to come off. Oh, no, it will. Just open it up, add a bit of glue there, otherwise it's going to come apart. It wasn't a problem on the other side because it didn't have this cutout bit in it. Add a bit more glue because I've messed that up a little bit. There we go. It'll be neater now. That's better. Now my two bits aren't coming apart here. That's going to work better. That's your base done. Put it to one side to let the glue really dry. Next up, we'll do the lid of the box. This is all the big blue pieces without the little circles taken out. It goes together almost in the same way as the one we've just done, but there is a key difference, so make sure you watch carefully. I've already folded up along all of my score lines, and for this we've got this piece here for the middle, two pieces that look like this for the sides, then there's one bit with a rectangle in the middle, and one that's just a plain rectangle. Just like before, we'll start with the sides. So they're going to go on and tent across either side of the tab there. There's one side, and then the same for the other one. Then we'll do this one. This is the easiest one to do next, and that will go on the long side. And again, just like before, we're folding up the tabs, and then this bit will tent over the top. It doesn't really matter if the little tabs go that side or that side of the big one. However, it just is naturally going in. Borrow some paper clips from this one because it will have dried by now. Okay, now for this one, this works a bit different. We can't tent this one over because we need this gap to be this side. So instead, we'll tuck all of the tabs down, and then this will glue on top. So we're lining up the hole like that. Not quite sure why mine's not quite being straight. My card is bowing a little bit, but I can hold it straight when I put the next bit on. Glue down here. And then, probably should have done this bit first. I also want to glue these bits together. Glue this shut. Try and pull this so it's straight, because as I said, it's bowing a bit at the minute, and I think if I can pull it to fit the bit we've just put on, that's going to be better. Oh, just dropped my glue in case you were wondering what that bang was. There we go, that is pulling straight. Just needed a little bit of extra attention there. There we go. That's the only tabs that we'll see on the inside. The rest of them are all nicely covered up. And I think in there's going to be the best place for the paper clips on that one. Okay, so that's that one. Let's wait for that to dry. And while we're doing that, we can move on to the front. For the front, we've got a white piece and then a blue one. The blue one has got 2 score lines at the top. You want to fold both of these away from you and then kind of bend it over so you'll end up with a ridge along the top and then the tab folds down. And this is what gives us the space to allow the wheel to turn. For now though, hold it out upright like that and we'll glue this on top of the white. Don't add any glue above the score lines because that doesn't correspond to the white. Just go above a little bit, but no further than that first score line. It doesn't matter that we're covering up these little cutouts in the bottom of the white. They're just there so that it will make it easier to line things up later. We're not actually slotting anything in the gaps or anything like that. It's more of a guideline. Wiggle it around to get it all nice and neat on all the edges. Next up, we'll glue the snowflake onto the front. Remember to make sure the middle holes line up perfectly. And we can glue the reindeer onto the front as well. It might be easier to put this against the box before adding all the decorations on, but I'm committed now. I'm going to do it this way. We've got 4 little white snowflakes to go on. 2 slightly bigger, thicker ones without any gaps in the middle. And those ones are the ones that go here and here. Glue these on. They're very narrow. Didn't do that very neatly. I was trying to line it up against the blue and didn't quite manage it for some reason. I don't think I've put that quite right because they're not lining up with the blue particularly well, but you can't really tell. So I'm going to go with it. And then we've got these 2 smaller ones to go in the gaps on the side. Then the Merry Christmas will go along the front. We'll add foam squares for this so that it doesn't catch on the reindeer like it's doing at the minute. But have a little look and think about where it's going to go, and where those reindeer legs are going into where the letters are, don't add foam squares there. So that's the top of the Y and the top of the T. Here's the top of my T, and it was also the top of the Y, so I can put one in the bottom, just not the top. Line it up kind of in the middle and push down. Make sure it doesn't go below the bottom. There's the front done. Now on the design there's a little bit of darker blue, a little frame to go around the edge here. I don't seem to have that bit. I think I've lost it somewhere between this being cut out, which was done a few weeks ago, and actually putting it together. So if you've got yours, then glue the little frame around there, but I don't, and it's going to look just fine without it. Okay, now for putting it all together. Take any paper clips off that you've still got, and I suppose I should check before we get any further that the lid goes on, which it does, the perfect fit. Take that apart. So we want the lid, which is the one where it's got the kind of box along the top, whereas the base has got the kind of U shape going in. And this will glue onto the front, making sure it's lined up nicely along the bottom. And this is where these two little slits in the white come in handy, because that is where it will line up against the box. Put quite a bit of glue on here to get a really good stick. So I'm lining it up against these 2 points. That's what we've ended up with. These bits act as little stabilizers to help hold the front nice and straight. So we're folding upwards this time along the score line. So it's a valley fold here. And then there's one for each side. And the tab along the back will glue to the box, and the bit down the front will glue to the back of the reindeer. And then it'll be all lined up nicely. Just gives it a bit more protection and makes it stronger. You can leave these off if you don't want to put them on. It won't affect it too much if they're not on there. But because this can get a little heavy with all the bits of card we've put on there, a little bridge or stabilizer is helpful. And there's the same for the other side. Once again, the smaller bits going up against the box and the rest against the reindeer. Like that. Okay, so now we'll tuck our top bit over like that and add the wheel. So we've got our wheel, and then there are 3 circular spaces. You may not need these, you may need all 3, you may need to cut a few more. I'm going to just line them all up, put them on top of this bit. It helps give it a little bit of distance from the front, which can make it easier to turn. You might also want them on the back. In fact, I think I'm going to do one on the front and the other 2 on the back. This isn't going to be glued, so if you want to change it about later, you absolutely can. And then my brad will go through the hole in the front. You might have to push it if it's a bit bigger than the hole. You can see it poking through. And then put on one of those. Then the wheel. It will go down in the gap. That's why we've got the gap. And then I'll add my other 2 spaces on the back. I'm just guessing. The spaces are really just for a bit of wiggle room if you need it. So that's on there, going all the way through. And we're not quite ready to open them up yet, because we've also got a little belt to go on the back to hold everything in place more securely. That is these 3 pieces. There's one long one with 2 score lines on it, and then 2 that have got holes in the middle with 1 score on. For the one that's got 2 scores on, one of them has got a flat edge and the other is a rounded edge. The flat edge will end up glued on the back of the box, and the rounded one will tuck down and go along here. So first up, fold your score lines and then tuck down the tab with the rounded edge on that long bit. Get one of the other ones and we'll glue this down so that it goes over like this. So we're sort of extending the length of this piece overall. line it up so that the score line is where it is glued up to. There we go. And then the other one we'll glue inside for stability. You know you've got it the right way round because your holes will line up. They'll fold inwards. Then this bit will go along here. We'll pull, oh, you can't see. Oh, I should have checked my little camera first. Okay, the tab of this is going to go on here, and then the tab along the top, this back bit, will glue to the top of this bit here. So, and we also need to thread it over the rest of the brad. Glue down this tab, not the bridge bit that sits flat along the top, just the bit at the back. Line that up. And then also, you can't see what I'm doing now, but I'm also going to add some glue under this bottom tab to put it onto the top of the box. Glue on there, and it'll sit straight. You might not be able to get this 100% flat against the box. You can see mine's kind of coming up a bit at the side. That's okay. And check your wheel turns, because now's your last chance to take it apart again if it doesn't, but mine does. And then glue on the underside of the tab on the back up to that score line. And that will go over here. So sort of pulling it back on itself a little bit, holds everything upright and in place. And again, check your wheel still turns. And that's it, we're done. So here's how it looks from the front. Got our lovely wheel, goes all the way around, counting down the days until Christmas. It's beautifully decorated. Got my base here and 24 chocolates to go inside. I was very good all through filming this and I haven't pinched any. There might have been a few left over originally in the boxes though from the supermarket, which might not exist anymore, but I was very good at keeping 24 of them. They all fit in there really nicely. And then this will go over the top. It still turns with that lid on. Here it is. So each day you can pull the lid off to enjoy your chocolate. And if you don't tell anyone else that they're in there, you can enjoy them all to your very self. So there we go. Here's our advent calendar project for the 2025 Christmas countdown, all done. I hope that you enjoyed following along with me to make this Turn the Wheel advent calendar. I just love how it turned out. It's really pretty. It makes an impact wherever you display it, and it's got all of those hidden chocolates too. If you did enjoy this project, please give my video a thumbs up and come back tomorrow for day 2 of the Christmas craft countdown. I hope to see you then, and thank you so much for watching. Bye!